On May 27th, hot on the heels of the Snyder Cut release announcement, and on the eve of the premiere of HBO Max, which you can rest assured is not coincidental timing, Deadline Hollywood dropped the scoop that Henry Cavill is in talks to reprise his signature role as the Man of Steel, albeit only in cameo appearances. However, there are indications that Cavill's Superman very well could star in another Superman feature film as well. But if he returns, where does that leave Ben Affleck's Batman? Could he make a return as well? In this editorial, I will go through the case for why another Superman movie with Henry Cavill very well could be forthcoming, who would be making it if it does, and finally, the latest rumors about Ben Affleck possibly reprising his role of Batman. Before we begin though, let's do a brief recap of how Cavill initially seemingly dropped out of Superman, or was dropped from Superman, depending on how you choose to look at it. In September of 2018, it was reported in the trades that Henry Cavill was out as Superman amid a DC on-film shakeup. This was no official announcement, but a strategic leak, a backdoor announcement if you will. The at the time not yet ousted CEO Kevin Tsujihara and chairman Toby Emmerich, who is still there, were looking to take DC on film in another direction. And in the direction they were going, there were no plans for another Superman feature film. However, to help push their other movies, like Shazam, they did want to contract Henry Cavill for a number of cameo appearances, and pay him, compared to what he would get for a feature film, peanuts for them. Cavill would have none of that, so he walked. The management of DC slammed the door after him, and Headless Superman appeared in Shazam. Warner at the time were of the opinion that Superman, like Batman, was like James Bond, and he could easily be replaced should they want to. Michael B. Jordan was rumored as someone they were looking at to replace him, but their real focus was on a Supergirl movie anyway. But no Supergirl movie came, and outside of TV, which doesn't really count here, neither did a new Superman, leaving the door wide open for Henry Cavill to make a comeback. The Snyder Cut release was announced in a Man of Steel watch party hosted by Zack Snyder on May 20th. A surprise guest who showed up there was the Man of Steel himself, Henry Cavill. Seeing as that's where the Snyder Cut was announced, there was obviously more to Henry Cavill appearing than him being the star of the movie. 1 week later, on May 27th, Deadline Hollywood reported that Henry Cavill was back in talks with Warner about reprising Superman. Like before, the talks were about a series of cameos, not another Man of Steel feature film. Also like before, this was another strategic leak, a backdoor announcement if you will, but it might not have been the full story. John Campea, the famed pundit who was the first to break the scoop that Ben Affleck was out as Batman nearly 2 years before it was confirmed, had another exclusive scoop to share with the world. What John Campea had been told by his source, the same one that relayed to him that Ben Affleck was out as Batman back in the day, was that J.J. Abrams, whose production company Bad Robot has a mega deal with Warner, would be doing another Superman movie. However, this source maintained that Henry Cavill was not yet a lock to be Superman in it, which is why it hadn't been announced yet, to give Abrams some leeway in finding his Superman. Campea then double-checked this with another source, who independently of the first source confirmed that J.J. Abrams would be doing Superman. But this source also claimed that Henry Cavill would indeed be reprising the role of Superman in it. Since these two sources diverged on the matter, there is some room for doubt. Campea was of the opinion that Henry Cavill probably would be the star of J.J. Abrams' unannounced, but by all accounts upcoming Superman. But he relayed the question to his co-host and our good friend Robert Meyer Burnett.
Given what we've been told, and given all the facts that we already know from the stuff that you laid out, what do you feel the likelihood is that we're going to see Henry Cavill actually playing Superman here in a lead in a movie of his own?
100%.
Burnett had good reason to be so sure.
And I also said about Henry Cavill, you don't bring a star. Hollywood doesn't work this way. If you're the star of 3 movies, your character, and the star of, say, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Warner Brothers has a history with Henry Cavill.
Don't forget The Witcher. Don't forget The Witcher.
And The Witcher, I mean, they're in the Henry Cavill business. You don't bring Henry Cavill back to play the supporting role in multiple movies. No, actors don't do that. They just don't. I mean, I believe that he would come in and do cameos in all of these movies, whether it's Aquaman 2 or, another Wonder Woman movie or Shazam or whatever. I believe that that's true, but I mean, you're not in talks with the studio to come play supporting roles. You're in talks with the studio to come back and play the lead role in a lead movie.
About why this hadn't been announced yet. If this was such a sure thing, Burnett had this to say.
They can't say that yet because it's not a done deal. And I can see that Henry Cavill, J.J. Abrams, they have to leave a director open to cast who he wants to cast in the lead role, because whoever's going to be cast in the lead role, it's probably going to be the thought that we're going to make 3 more movies with this person. But I also know, having watched all the casting for Flyby and for Superman Returns, it's really hard to find somebody to play Superman, and Henry Cavill is a great Superman.
In short, while it hasn't been announced yet, I think we can trust John Campea's scoop on this one. Henry Cavill will be back as J.J. Abrams' Superman. If J.J. Abrams will direct himself, or merely produce while someone else directs, remains to be seen. But either way, it will be a bad robot production of J.J. Abrams' Superman. Now, if Star Trek and Star Wars are anything to go by, those aren't necessarily good news. I just hope that he and his crew will be a better fit with DC than they were with Star Trek or Star Wars. We'll have more to say about J.J. Abrams' Superman later on, including a review of the script he was working on the last time he was up for directing a Superman movie. But for now, let's move on to Batman. Though not nearly as substantiated or credible as the rumors of Cavill returning, there have been rumors that Ben Affleck could be returning too, in some capacity. AT&T themselves have fueled these rumors with tweets that some interpreted as hinting at a Batfleck return. Although some of these tweets, both hinting at a Batfleck return, a Cavill return, promising that this is just the beginning and not ruling out an air cut of Suicide Squad, have since been deleted. If that means not happening, or whoops, someone hinted a little bit too much too soon, remains to be seen. But such rumors generally don't spontaneously appear out of empty nothingness. The culture nerd claimed sources had told them that AT&T wanted Affleck back as Batman, and to resume work on the script for the discarded Batman feature film that he was set to write, direct, and star in. The one featuring Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke. This was the script it was reported at the time that they couldn't crack, but according to Grace Randolph, and whatever you may feel about her, she has knocked it out of the park with her DC coverage. The real issue wasn't that Affleck couldn't crack the script, but that Jeff Johns wanted to go another direction than what Affleck wanted. Johns reportedly wanted to go with another script altogether, one which allegedly called for a pretty boy to play a much younger Batman, and that, allegedly, is the movie Matt Reeves is making with Robert Pattinson. Going back to the culture nerd, their scoop is substantiated on 4chan, where it was claimed that Batfleck is getting his own HBO Max original series that follows directly from where the Snyder Cut leaves off. Affleck himself will serve as showrunner, Snyder is on board as executive producer, and Manganiello is returning as Deathstroke. Details on whether it will be a miniseries or if they can get Affleck into a multi-season contract are still being negotiated. Expect an official announcement towards the end of the year. In addition to that, both ourselves and other YouTubers like Comic Book Cast 2 have heard rumors to this end, though these cannot be independently verified at this time, and therefore must remain just that, rumors. What I find interesting though, is that these rumors in no way, shape or form have been refuted. Screen Rant wrote an article about why Ben Affleck returning is less likely than Henry Cavill returning, but even they won't make any absolutist statement. After spending the entire article arguing why he won't return, they conclude by saying, "Still, the same way the Snyder Cut of Justice League was wrongly thought to not exist, Affleck's return could happen one day, especially if he returns for additional work on Justice League. Only time and the success of the upcoming releases in the DCEU will tell which other real-life twists will arise along the way. I think a Batfleck return very well could be on the cards. I certainly hope so. In my opinion, there are many better Batman movies, but there is no better Batman, no better Batsuit, no better Bruce Wayne, and no better Bat voice than what we got with Ben Affleck. A potential high-end Ben Affleck Batman series is going to be a huge win for HBO Max. And since Matt Reeves' Batman, if and when it resumes filming, won't be part of the DCEU, Affleck's Batman technically hasn't even been recast. Robert Pattinson is a different Batman in a different universe. When even publications like Screen Rant, who never thought the Snyder Cut would happen and reacted with hostility towards the fans when it did, won't rule it out, then it's more possible than we think. The powers that be may not hold fans in that high a regard, but they can't ignore audience and fan demand. Look at this picture. That's how they view us. Those guys have some pretty sweet t-shirts though. Release the Snyder Cut is now a statement that equals victory. And The Last Jedi is not canon certainly echoes the sentiment of many a fan. You want those t-shirts, don't you? I know you do. Make a statement all of your own. Head on over to mixedtees.com/midnightsedge. That's mixedtees.com/midnightsedge, and you can get them there, alongside other cool Midnight's Edge tees, so do check that out. Also, let me know how you feel about the prospect of Cavill returning to Superman, J.J. Abrams overseeing that, and the rumors of Batfleck possibly also returning in the comments.